This is live. So I am still doing a few things to get ready. I'm just getting on. While I don't expect anybody to show up as per usual with a live stream, I wanted to make sure this was working without a problem. And then I'm gonna get off Facebook because it's what's slowing me down tonight already. Hopefully, um, it's not gonna be Discord that slows me down, but it could because these are live. Uh, they're live, so they're constantly dragging on the internet, and my internet is not that wonderful. But I want to get this link, share it in a few places, and then be done with it. And I think everyone can hear me. My mic is on. So what's the plan for the night um as this rolls through? It's July. Somehow I haven't done a live stream in months because everything turned to not editing per se, but just focused work, focused proofreading, focused. There's no interest in accepting is watching me accept edits that other people have made to the lines of my books. So I didn't do anything for the launch before the launch of Unraveling Carrie Woodhouse, but that is out if you are looking for it. That's available on Amazon for ebooks. And I am working on a project that will bring audiobooks, but I don't know how long that's going to take, mostly because I have to save up some money for it. But I suspect that we might try it here on YouTube with AI. Yeah, AI doing my audiobook. Also, I'm playing with a new toy. You can see it in the corner, but I bought a nice, pretty microphone, the Snowball, which means that my audio should be great. So if you can't hear me very well, tell me in the comments. That way, I know to either adjust where the mic is, which is not going to be easy, or maybe just use my regular mic. That's the one from the computer. This is the setup I bought thinking I was going to do my own audiobook next. And then the AI option came up, but that means it'll be a free audiobook instead of paid. And once some things are changed with Audible, the company that most of you buy audiobooks from, but also the company I'm under contract with for some content creation. But that ends eventually. And when that happens, I will be considering AI versions of the audiobooks for all the other ones, especially because they've gotten updates since the audiobook was created. Those are the big projects. But tonight, we're not doing that. Tonight, I'm already working on the next Austen modernization. And this is the second draft. In November, I wrote the book, what I was calling at the time Pemberley Candies, which is about candy stores. And if you've read Unraveling Carrie Woodhouse, you know that there is a candy store in Lecoq, and that is where we returned because if you got to the end of that book, someone bought a building. It's so very curious because everyone's heard that the person is opening a candy shop, and that's where Sweeten Up Ginny Darcy takes us. It is a gender swap of Pride and Prejudice. So we're looking at another Darcy, and it's Ginny Darcy, who is the sister, Miss Darcy, in the original. We're now looking at the story from her point of view. I wanted to deal with a couple of of themes. One is how women make themselves vulnerable in different ways than men do when being the first to open up about emotions that are love oriented, and how to our minds we think we communicate one way, and we don't always see or understand how others could misinterpret that. And while in the original Mr. Darcy realizes he's an idiot and truly is an idiot, and changes because he realizes this is just not the way he should be in the world. With Ginny, she thinks she's doing a great job. She thinks she's just, holding back the cruelty. She doesn't realize how scrutable her face is, how her sudden reactions push buttons, and every so often she gets a hint of that. But she doesn't realize that she's such a bad communicator and emoter, and there's a lot of her own trauma. So instead of Jorge being the Darcy foil, it's her own trauma because of Jorge that is her own foil. So we're dealing with an interior crisis rather than an existential one or an external one. But then you have our Aunt Catherine, who fills more of the Jorge attacking the Bennet's role. I know where this is going. We're not talking about it. We're not there yet in this draft process, so I'm not going to worry about it. I am working on chapter 5. I have my little tag to tell me where I am, my bookmark and tag to tell me where to look. I have color-coded content. This is draft 2, so I have read through this and I have re-outlined the entire thing based on this first draft, which is how I like to do it. I like to just dump. I have an idea of where we're going. I dump it all in the first draft, and then I read it and I realize there's some good stuff here, but it's crap. It's not a great story. And then I readjust it to deal with what I've learned about the characters in draft 1 and make adjustments. I often pick poor names. I often make too many characters and realize I don't, like I have in this first draft, Jorge presents himself and it really doesn't work with him. And because it's a gender swap, there's also a gender swap of the Bennets. The Bennets are a group of brothers, and it changes Mrs. Bennet to not have to worry about daughters in that sense of what we're all used to, that she's anxious about their futures in the Austen original, because who knows what's going to happen to her daughters if they don't marry. And that doesn't really translate well in modern society, but can translate to a mother can worry whether her children's options are good or not. And then it changes when you're dealing with 5 sons. And for her, it is not so much the anxiety of what is going to come for them, but the anxiety of what is going to be done to her and her legacy to them, if the thing she fears happens, which she's not out of left field for what she fears is going to happen. She's just hysterical about it, so she's not believed. So it's going to get into this way we treat women, and what happens if it's a woman announcing her love for Elliot, the Elizabeth Bennet, instead of a man. There's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot of vulnerability that I think women will understand, and maybe men take for granted. I don't know. But I think the more I realize about people, the more I realize we're all anxious about this, and men just, think they're expected to do it, so they do it. To have the self-confidence or the confidence in someone else's feelings for you is to take a risk, and women are raised and treated differently than men are. So it's different anxieties and different vulnerabilities, but we get to explore in this one how she realizes more of how poorly she behaves in general, how she doesn't see it the way others do, but others are right. And then how she fixes that, and ultimately does help the Bennets with something that they're dealing with and tries not to be known. But of course, when you have a Lydia in a story, the truth is going to come out eventually, isn't it? But we go back to Lecoq. We get mentions of Carrie and Bard and Zach, but they're not the characters. They're not the people being the features of the story. We're back to a lot of the characters from Pride, Prejudice, and Pledging. Charlotte and Colin are back. Their relationship is, we're about 3 or 4 years on. Their relationship's falling apart, as one does when they're not really in love with each other. So it's gonna be a roller coaster, I think. But I have to make sure also not to get lost in the tales of candy making, because I've done so much research and sampling. So that's going to be fun. So we're about 10 minutes in. I have 2 little pieces of paper tonight. I'm running 10-minute sprints. I am hoping to get to about 1,500 to 2,500 words tonight. That's not at all realistic. It's a very big stretch given that we're working in 2 hours and I am chatty. So I'm going to use the timer on my watch to keep track of things. And I'm going to mute myself, but let you see the Scrivener screen. Here we go. Here is Scrivener, what I use to write in. I know that last time I did it in a Google Doc, I believe, but we're going to see if Scrivener works only because that's what I want to do. That's really what matters. So I'm going to start my time. And I am also doing sprints on Discord. So I'm going to go set that up. You can't see it. I decided to only show one screen. And that's where we'll go now to 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been more than 10 minutes, but not much. So where are we? Let's remove that for a moment. Where are we? That was actually a pretty good sprint. We're at Halloween, which is chapter 5 of like 20 something. This is the first half. Not yet the Meriton Ball kind of thing, but pretty close. You'll notice I was so I wrote about 477 words, which is exceptionally good. Uh, but I am pulling content from a previous version of the book. Oh, lost that again. Give myself a 5-minute chat time so that I don't go over. Um, where was I saying? I'm borrowing content from the previous version because a lot of the scenes are the same, but some of the players are different. You'll notice there are still references to Jorge. Bart was still Barry at that point in Unraveling Carrie Woodhouse, and then I realized I had too many names ending in Y and IE, and I still do, especially for women. I have a problem. We're working on that. I have a plan to like pull some character names from the Atlantic hurricane season name list, especially minor characters, because those tend to be a little more diverse, just in general, especially Atlantic, and then Pacific, maybe. But I think Atlantic's going to be the same names I might see in people and hear from people here on this coast. So that's fun. But what we're dealing with is a lot of marshmallows because that's what Haley, our main, our Bingley is Haley, and then Caroline is Owen, and then Ginny is Darcy. Um, and I was originally going to go with names very similar, but then I realized how many C names I had. Naming can be complicated, especially when you're not trying to name for meaning. You're just trying to name something that readers are going to at least not get tired of hearing over and over again. So similar sounding names can be a problem. And we're dealing with Elliot, this moment where Darcy thinks that he and Elizabeth are making headways. It's their continuous interactions around town. But every time Catherine comes up, there's going to be a bristling because Catherine is our Wickham-ish. She's our villain essentially for this, and she's not at war. She's not going to. She is going to do something to Lincoln, our Lydia, but it is not. It's going to it's complicated because it's complicated, and I can't tell you anything because I don't want to spoil this book. It is one of my favorites so far. I say that each time. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. I don't write anything I wouldn't enjoy reading myself, to be honest. But getting in that many words is good because that means I'm, 3 down on my little a third of the way to my minimum, and then possibly a little like a sixth of my way if I can get to 2,500 in this time frame. I would be very happy, which means I need to stop talking so much. We might run a little over. I really don't care. It's Friday night. It's super hot. Well, no, it's not super hot, but I don't really care. I'm going to talk as long as I want. And if anybody joins me, then you join me. But we are almost done with this break. So there is the activity on the Discord server. It's really just my friend Hannah who sort of runs the server. And if any writer comes on and wants to do these regularly with me, I'd be happy to talk to her about getting you access to our Discord server for our National Novel Writing Month group, which is Nano Lowell, because that's where we live. It's Lowell in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts. What's going on otherwise? One of the reasons I'm free to work on this book this month is because the next fantasy book is with a editor. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that coming up because I'm going to run, I think, an Indiegogo campaign to do the launch of that. This doesn't seem to work that well for romance books right now, but I would do it if I could get my head together. I didn't get my head together in time last time, but this next time I possibly could. But the idea is to give people a little extra content while trying to break even or as close to even on the production cost as possible. So you get the book and you might get stickers or In this case, they'll be like tote bags that I got from a friend and um, art from some of the artists that I love and have found around town, including because this is the fantasy book, the Death Tarot card, a devil. It's about hiring a new devil. So that kind of stuff will be extra content for it, and it's the introduction to a my big fantasy series, which if you read Love from the Overthinker Parks, Katie, you've started to get into. So if you are someone who likes reading romance and fantasy, or you like reading fantasy, but you can do a little romance, I would check that book out. All right, that's my 5 minute break. I'm going to start my 10. Start the. Okay, that is started. I'm going to mute myself, get back to Okay, I got a little over 375, so I'm going to call it 400, um, which was another very good sprint. So what am I doing? We've done the grand opening. All I really wanted to show with that was sort of the tension, that's the ebb and flow of the tension between Elliot and Ginny, where like every time she thinks she's making a little headway, she does something stupid, or they get into an argument. In this case, she's aware that Mrs. Bennet feels attacked by this new candy store in town, but she feels attacked by everything. If you read Unraveling Carrie Woodhouse, you know she felt attacked when Carrie merely offered to help her. So it's not a surprise, it's not a stretch, and that her sons would be defensive and protective of her, even if they were critical of her on their own, in their own minds. They're certainly not going to be critical of her when faced with anybody else, especially a stranger who doesn't know the family, who doesn't know the situation. And do the townspeople know the situation? A certain generation certainly does. I think in Unraveling Carrie Woodhouse, Jean Woodhouse, Carrie's father, hints that there's something going on, something deeper. And we will find that out in this book. This is the book to discover it. But now we've got Colin coming in as a spy for Catherine, but Elliot is accused Ginny of also being a spy, which gets her defenses up. And she does the right thing by, she has the flare of her temper. You can see in the nostrils flaring and her face getting flushed, but she walks away from that because that is the right thing to do. And she takes some breath and she calms herself. But when she goes out again to the store, the main part of the store, Elliot's gone, and he can't hear her apology because he's left before she's been able to make it. So now we're at the grand opening, and this is where we have to get everybody out of town. We're in early November. They will be back for Thanksgiving. Well, Ginny will be back for Thanksgiving at Catherine's, and there's another concern there with getting Elliot to Catherine's, and I think it's going to be Colin manipulation, but he's going to come for Thanksgiving, essentially, for a variety of reasons. Actually, no, only one reason, but we'll get there if we do that during a live stream. So there's going to be meltdown after meltdown for this party, this grand opening party. They've got a really good plan. It's going to, I have this little version of the store in my head, and there's like a corner where Haley can do like live demos of the food and the making of the marshmallows. So she's got like little trays she's like making and putting aside and then pulling out and cutting up the same flavor already like set so that people can have marshmallows as they go. She's like Haley's in heaven. Ginny loves this idea because Ginny loves a good idea. Like Ginny and Carrie are like, everybody has so many ideas. I can't write a woman who isn't full of ideas, but whereas Carrie is like the queen of her castle and trusted implicitly by her family to do whatever she wants in the store, and to be trusted to make wise business decisions. Carrie, who has an MBA in marketing, who has been in the store all her life, Ginny's very different in her business. Ginny's store, Pemberley Candies, is her family store. They're like Serendipity, I think 2, 3, I don't know, whichever the one in New York that has a famous super expensive ice cream and a movie about it. That's the one. They're famous. They're in Manhattan. They are like, you drink their hot chocolate the way you drink Swiss Miss hot chocolate. You just do it. It's just famous. So she has this candy store, but both her parents have passed, and this candy store is her mother's family's candy store. So there's 5 minutes. So she has this legacy, and she's gone to culinary business school. I researched these cool things, like this happens at NYU. You can learn the business and the cooking together. They also do it up in New Hampshire, and one of the candy makers I met locally was like, that's what I did. And I was like, that is super freaking awesome. We will have those candies. The candy shop is Sweet Lydia's, and I love it because this is a Pride and Prejudice modernization. So yeah, the giveaways will include Sweet Lydia's marshmallows. I had to. So she's not trusted in her store, even though she has this educational background. She's full of ideas. She wants to make this her candy store. It's hers to run. It is Haley and Owen's mother who is pushing back because she has run the store for decades, and she has not invited Ginny in. Ginny is just claiming what is hers. So there is a lot of tension back in New York that Ginny's going to have to deal with in her half of the story. And that is going to be her growth, her realizing how she is, how other people see her is different from how she sees herself, and thus how Heather sees her is different from how she sees herself, and making amends, building from there, but not doing it for Elliot, doing it for herself. And Elliot's just gonna recognize that this is a version of Ginny that he actually likes. So he's gonna fall in love with her candy store instead of her library. I fully support that. While Elizabeth loves Darcy, she fell in love with that house first. So he's gonna fall in love with her candy store, and then he's gonna realize he actually does love her. So we are at 10 minutes. I'm going to start another timer, and we're going to go into the grand opening of Main Street Suites. All right, that time was a little less. It was about 3:26. So why am I like slowing down? It's just the ebb and flow of writing. I'm trying to think of so in Pride, Prejudice, and Pledging, Charlotte, who was an artist and really has has no desire to do commercial art and truly just wants to make art, but doesn't want to live a poor and desolate life while she waits for a benefactor. She marries Colin, and of course, Elizabeth hates this idea because Colin is Colin, uh, and she doesn't want anybody to be to inflict him on anybody unnecessarily. But she wonders why her now almost done with college educated friend who has a passion for art and is talented in her opinion would want to marry a random dude. But I never really went into what was Charlotte promised, and I had intended to do this in like a short story, and it never worked. But I will be editing Pride, Prejudice, and Pledging this year, and I think I need to. One of the things I need to do is clarify Charlotte's motivations for actual marriage to a man she probably can't stand, but can make the best of, and it has to do with. And I think I mentioned in talking about Charlotte that she comes from a low income family who lived in Detroit or Flint, Michigan, I think, but outside of Detroit and didn't have much. And she's on scholarship and she wants a career in something that does not make money. So she has been promised um, as a patron in Catherine if she marries Colin because Catherine thinks Colin needs a wife and Catherine believes she is correct in everything she believes and that a man needs a strong woman by his side. That is her view of the world. That it's not that Charlotte needs a man, it's that Colin needs a strong woman. And that would have been fine as Elizabeth too. She wouldn't have known what was going on, but she specifically thinks he needs marriage, not just a partner who's living with him. And while Charlotte finds him attractive, and she can manage him and his personality, she also recognizes that there are things she's going to get out of this relationship. And if she is not getting them, or she's not getting them because of Catherine, then she's going to reconsider the entire situation. And on Colin's part, and you haven't read this, but it has been written, Colin is worse when he is under a maternal influence. His mother, and obviously in Pride and Prejudice and Pledging, is a problem, but he seems free of it by the end of that book, and he seems to be thinking for himself and following his passion. He has a business that Catherine helped him create that is thriving, but now we're 4 years later. 4 or so years later, he has sold that business. They have a nice income from that sale, but now that was his idea, that was his thing, and Catherine pushed him to do that before he was ready, but he trusts Catherine implicitly. So he is making decisions based on her influence and leaning more into that instead of Charlotte, who would prefer him to make his own decisions about what he's passionate about and how he wants to handle his business. So there is a bit of a balance that she's struggling with, and as Charlotte's influence wanes over Colin and Colin leans back into Catherine, his worst personality traits come out. So as I was writing, like he puffs his chest out and he prances over to talk to somebody because he wants to feel important. And he likes somebody who makes him feel important. And Charlotte isn't going to be that woman. So that relationship will not be ending in this book. We are not dealing with a divorce. I don't know if I will be able to write a Charlotte story soon, but when the series ends, so there's 3 more books in the series. There's Sweeten Up Ginny Darcy, November, All Right, Citation Needed, and then there's a third that is temporarily being called Tilney's Haunted Farm, which would be another Northanger Abbey one, which needs a lot of work. So that'll happen eventually. But what is going to happen after that is a collection of short stories centered around Lecoq, kind of a take on Sanditon, without it being Sanditon, because Sanditon was never finished. But this will look at the town and the characters in it, and see where those stories are. There will be a little more short story collections that follow other characters outside of town, but in general, it's going to be the story collection is going to be about Lecoq and this fight that I'm dancing around between, like, the spa town and the art town kind of thing. This is and the Bart Carrie war that only Bart is fighting, and Carrie's like, I'm in my own land, but it's irritating. Like, I don't care that he's lodging this war. I have other crap to do. Uh, but it's irritating, and Colin only exacerbates it. So we're going to do um, another chunk of writing, another 10 minutes, and then we'll see where things stand. I've lost track of where I was when I ended the last sprint, and now where I could have been for this one. So I am still taking content from the last one and moving things in. And of course, we have, Haley, who is excited and going to make marshmallows, which now I really just want a marshmallow, but do not have any in the house. That's fine. We're an hour into this, and it's still just me happily typing away and doing sprints. I am also alone on the Discord server, so it's not a big deal. It is a Friday night in July. I am sure that, and it's a beautiful night in Massachusetts, so I'm sure people are out. And I'm one of the few people who still does not like to go out into the world without a good reason. So, and I've been out quite a few times today. So I've got a little clock going on. And yeah, this book is a little bit more exhausting than I remember it being. It does require a little more thought than I realized because I have to make sure that we like Ginny because she's our narrator and it's her change arc. But it also has to be understandable why Elliot might not, why he doesn't trust her, why he thinks she is attacking him, why he thinks she is just proud and prejudiced against him. There's a lot of things happening in the beginning of the book that he will accurately interpret. Like the very first line, actually, I can read you the very first line because it's the beginning of the book, but it basically starts at a farmer's market. And she said, and she is our narrator, she said, as I stood there, the sun beating down on the back of my neck during this oddly warm October day, the only thing I could think about was how the first words out of my mouth should not be yuck or any variation of it. Isn't it delicious? Louisa Bennet asked as I put a piece of chocolate into my mouth. The chocolate on the plate was already melting in the heat, and even though I tried to avoid making a mess as I picked up the small piece, my fingers were smeared. There was something wrong with it. Not only was there a white film on it, signifying it had not been tempered well, but it was grainy and bitter. Not in a good way either. It was supposed to be milk chocolate, which most people wanted creamy and smooth. As I tasted it, I could feel my facial muscles instinctively scrunch up, and before I could stop myself, the forbidden word left my mouth. Ugh. Fuck or yuck. It was the wrong thing to say, and their faces made it clear they had heard it. My face flushed, but my mind and my mouth were disconnected for a reason. Elliot Bennet was hot, with dirty blonde hair, scruffy beard, and magnetic blue eyes. I need to clean up this. My brain was reminding me to act like myself, but my body was in its own world as I kept trying to pull my eyes off of Elliot's so I could be kind to his mother and her terrible candy. I couldn't bear to turn to my friend Haley to see her reaction. So when the first words are out of your mouth are ugh, and you were eating somebody's mother's chocolate, and just so you know, that Louisa Bennet's most famous for her fudge, which she thinks tahine fudge is delicious. Not that she has tasted it. She doesn't like tahine, nor does she like tahini because she does not realize they are different. She heard tahine, thought someone meant tahini, so she bought tahine. And even though it looks completely different because one is spicy and thus more red, and the other is sort of a milky tan, she's not paying attention. She thinks they are the same. Like she just thinks they're the same thing, and that this very spicy the people just can't handle their spice, but they say they like tahini, and then so she is confused by what the two of them are, which is going to be even sadder when Ginny realizes this woman is a food scientist by training. Like she has a PhD and she's a food scientist. She knows. She should know. But she is that beat down by her own failure and her need to save money and her need to experiment to try and draw people in. And she's exhausted. And since I have been writing a very exhausted and depressed death in the fantasy series, I was kind of in that headspace. Also, it was an exhausting winter and fall after a pandemic, so we were all in a bit of a negative headspace. All right, that's my 5-minute break over. We are probably going to do two more sprints. I don't know where I am word count wise. I think I'm probably about 1,500 at this point. So that's pretty nice. We'll see if I can get to the 2,500. I really wanted to write today. And I think I can get about 800 words in the next 20 minutes. So let's try another 10 minutes. All right, so I got 620 that time. Why? Because this is content from the original chapter that I was really just sort of tweaking for any changes. But and there were a few changes. There were things like it's the bar Ginny wants to make a Pemberley candies because she's at sort of at war with her with Heather, the Haley and Owen's mother, who's currently running the store, so she can't make it there, but she's going to. She's ready to push back. So there's that. Adjusting, like I was still in the middle of unraveling Carrie Woodhouse, so of course Zach and Carrie were in my head, and we don't need all about Zach bringing over sandwiches. Like that's not necessary. This is a candy store. They can all walk over to Zach's place and go eat afterwards because somebody is there to make sandwiches. So it's about taking out some of this extra content, not just editing and correcting words that it's interesting that I might misspell something or mistype something as I'm going, but then the 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 AI behind the software tries to make spelling decisions and it often gets it wrong. So that has to be corrected as I go. And of course, usually I wait till the very end and I like Grammarly and my editors help do that, but these things will still slip through. Always. They always slip through. So, of course, if you're reading one of my other books and you find something, please tell me so I can fix it because I can fix it. That's the beauty. I can edit, I can fix, I can do anything even after the book has been published. I'm going to do a quick check to see like where my numbers are, just so that I can to tell you how I'm doing. So what this means is it's going to be a little over at this point because I'm still looking at numbers from the previous version of the chapter, but I was at about 12,600 and something before we started. And it's thinking. And now I'm at about 16,000, but that counts some words that I haven't written yet. So I'm going to shave off like 1,000 from there. And you can't see it because I can only share one thing at a time. But so let's take off 2,000 from that because it's probably what's there and unedited from the previous version and updated. And that'll show me my statistics for the day. So what you can't see is I'm on the National Novel Writing Month webpage, and it lets me add in all of my numbers, and I can either track each sprint, and that requires I keep track of where I was when I started the sprint, which, as you can tell, I am crummy at doing. I did highlight something, and I always forget to do that. So it lets you do either what you wrote this session or the sprint or your overall total increase, which is what I just did. And it will tell me my stats, but of course it is in the middle of thinking, which isn't helpful. So I'm going to reload because I have a couple of windows open. And of course, the internet slows down when you're streaming, especially when you're farther away from your everything. So yeah, I'm a little farther. There we go. I have for today about 2,100 words, which is really nice. An increase. That's about 400 away from where I want to be by the end of today. Because this is a really busy weekend and next week is really busy, and I'm getting ready to go to California to see my new niece. I don't know how far I'm going to get this month. So even the littlest of buffer is nice to get me closer. I am also taking vacation time in the period. So I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks from the library job. And in the middle of that, somewhere in the middle of that, I'm going to California, where I will still be trying to write while I cuddle a newborn baby, help change diapers, help take care of my sister's needs, which is get a nap. That's all her need is, for as far as I'm concerned, is to get a nap, because she will not get one for at least 18 years. That is what I understand maternity to be. to not ever sleep again. So I have a couple tasks there, but writing is not one of them. And while I will probably do a little work, that it's going to be mindless work. It's not going to be work where I have to focus on something like the words and making them work right. I did try to write this in November when I was last in California visiting her, and I just couldn't get into the right headspace. So I'm not going to bother trying again. I'm going to take a writing project that doesn't require attention, and if I don't do it, won't make me angry for not accomplishing what I wanted. So as much as I can get done right now, the better. All right, my 5 minutes are up. I am going to start another timer, and then we're going to get back to what may be the last sprint, but may not be. I don't know yet. We'll see. But we're going to go get back to the grand opening. And let me set the word count, the sprint on Discord, even though no one is joining me there either. I did. Um, Discord's cool, but we're going to write. All right. Yeah, we're getting into the nitty gritty of the grand opening. The fact that both Owen and Ginny are going to realize that there's something wrong. Johnny is no longer giving Haley his Johnny being our Jane is not giving Haley his full attention anymore. They're going to question why he was giving her so much attention in the first place. There's another scene where he injures himself, and they're going to question if he was even injured or if he was sent to spy. And that's kind of what is going to blow up between the two sides, the two candy stores. Mrs. Bennet is afraid that they are spies that are there to destroy her business, and thus she sends her sons in to spy, or at least she claims she is. Her sons don't, they don't care. They've been pushed away from this business other than making candy for her because that's what you do when you want to save your mother's business. You do whatever she'll let you do. And that's all she'll let them do. So while they could actually save her business with the experience and knowledge they have, they're stuck microwaving fudge. But they are not spies. But because she will be having a meltdown shortly and claims that Ginny and Haley are spies for Catherine, the questioning is going to start. But that's not why they leave. There is something else happening. So I'm going to set a quick 5 minutes for my break. I have no idea where I am word count wise. So the big question is, who the hell knows anymore? What is my word count? How many did you write? I have no idea. We will know at the end. I'm going to be able to get in one more, and then I will do my final-ish word count, and we'll see where I am and how well I did. I'm pretty sure I didn't do as many sprints as I wanted because, I mean, this is me. I talk a lot. But I only got 2 less than I thought I would. And I could probably push it, but it's not about the amount of the sprints or the length of time. It's that I get the word counts in and have fun. Really, this is supposed to be fun. Doing something I love. Which I do. I am actually having a great time with this book, and not just writing about candy and delicious candy and the literal candy shop that I mentioned in that section, the candy shop on the South Shore where you can buy all the penny candies. It does exist, and if you were following me on Instagram pre-pandemic, there might actually be pictures up on Instagram because my mother and I went to the candy store thinking it would be an experience. It was. So the story behind that is when I was born, they lived in this town on the South Shore of Massachusetts, Hull. It's a beach town. It had an amusement park. That's another issue and another story. But we lived under a penny candy store. And if you're too young to remember penny candies and penny candy store, it's the candy you think it is. It's mints. It's tiny little packs of M&Ms. It's saltwater taffy pieces. It's anything that is a piece of candy. Once upon a time, each piece cost a penny and maybe a nickel by the time I was born. And you would just you'd get a tray, like a nice sized tray, and you would put the pieces of candy you wanted in the tray. And then the woman at the register would count it, and then you'd give her how many pennies for how many pieces. And I am still in love with the traditional penny candies, things like gummy worms and gummy bears. And if you go into the mall and you see those mall candy stores now where you can go by weight, that's penny candy. But instead of by weight, you paid by piece. So pieces were individually wrapped. And all of those candies I grew up on, I spent the first 3.5 years of my life under that store. It explains a lot about my issues with candy and obsession with it. But this is the store that you would get the wholesale size from. And I made a point of buying Emily, my best friend, a box of Swedish fish packs, because that's our favorite candy. And there are stories that go along with that, which I will share as we promote this book. But my mother and I bought penny candy from the penny candy wholesale store because we found it and we could get in, and we found out about it because One of our cousin's son daughter's bat mitzvah, they put penny candy all over the tables, and we had to know where I had to know where they got it. So that was a fun pre-pandemic, like the month before the pandemic, we went and did this. So it was one of the last exciting things I did before I was locked away from the world for no apparent reason, since half of the people in the world didn't, or half of the people in the country didn't necessarily care. Um, so I haven't been back. I would love to go back. I'd love to go back with someone who's different, who love well, my mother loves candy, but someone else who loves candy could go with me next time. Uh, but that place does exist, and that is where many of these candy stores buy their penny candy, and they will sell it in like clear bins. So Sweet Lydia's does this. A couple other candy stores I've been into, like just little local homemade candy stores, also will have the penny candy in it, and this is the store they get it from, and they just repackage it in their own packaging. So that's always fun. Licorice laces, like the thin, stringy licorice, and they're usually strawberry. Those are also my favorite. But I could talk for eternity about my favorite candy. And if you read Love and War and Woodhouse Hall's A Little More collection, there is a story about Amelia and Jenna talking about their favorite candy that may or may not have been inspired by my internal monologue of candy I loved as I was preparing something for that book for them to bond. All right, that was 5 minutes. I'm going to do one more sprint and then we're going to wrap up for the night. And I didn't unmute myself. It's like I'm on a Zoom meeting. So Mrs. Bennet has had her meltdown. What I'm going to do now to get the final total is take out this chunk, which is the accident. And I think, no, I was going to keep this its own part of the chapter. But for now, I'm just going to move it out so I can get the actual count from chapters 1 through 6. And this will be my number. Last time we were like 16 and change, almost 17. And I think I took out just about 1,000 words now, but we've gone through the big part of the scene and I lost about 1,000. So that's fine. Let's go back to actually now what I'm going to do is let you see the NaNoWriMo webpage. So let's delete and then share a new screen. Nope. Uh-oh. I'm going to start something I didn't want to start. Sorry. I'm going to share my screen and then a Chrome tab, go to NaNoWriMo. So here you can now see the updating. You can see this is the progress I've made. I had a few days where I didn't do any updating because it was a work day. But here we go. This is where I put myself last time. And I'm going to update my progress. And it's telling me how many words I did. And let's do math. Which I should never do. So I did about 3,100, which is much better than I expected. But I am counting based on 2,500 word increments. So 2,500 words. And that's really what counts. That I'm at 15,000 and change means I need to make sure that the 2,500 word increments, there should be 6 of them. On my Kanban board, which you are not looking at now because that is in another position. But that is where I am. And it is 9 o'clock and it is pitch black outside. And Cedric is looking for attention and it is Friday night. So I'm going to end that here and take a break. I have gotten through a lot. I know where I'm going to pick up tomorrow when I get to work. And if I end up working tomorrow night, I will do another live stream and make a last minute decision to do it and play more with this story. And if you watch this later or you join me then I will see, you can leave comments anytime you want. Tell me your favorite candy in the world. Tell me the worst candy you've had. Subscribe, like the video, and you'll be notified if you ring the bell when I do more live streams or get videos up. And I think right now you can actually watch the series I'm doing called Behind the Dedication, where I explain who these dedications are in my books and why they are assigned to the people they are assigned to, what happened that made these people so important. And I will do one for Sweeten Up Ginny Darcy when the book is finally released. But until then, have a great night, have a great weekend, and I'll see you for the next live stream.